Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today in this video we're gonna be learning about classes in C#. If you haven't liked, share, subscribe my channel yet, do it now. I'll provide more content like this. So without any further ado, let's begin our today's video about classes in C#. Classes are really simple to use and to learn, but they can be really complicated at some times because the program you want to make, it depends on that. And first of all, let us clear everything right here. Okay, and I'm also gonna clear out everything even here, and you see we have an inbuilt class called program and a script called program.cs. A script, that is the CS script, that file should have at least one class or either a struct named with its name. So for example, if we are named here test script, then if we create a class or struct right here, then it should also be named as test script, nothing else. You can create multiple classes in a script, in just one script, and that's allowed, but you need to have that primary class inserted in it or written in it. That is really important because it will show an error. And one thing, you make sure that these two names are exactly the same. There should not be any space difference or maybe any letter difference, like you've done P small one in the script and a bigger one right here. So that is not valid. You need to have these exactly the same, and that is what Visual Studio gives us built in. So we now have our program, we know about functions, and we know about variables. So we can create a new class, access its function, or something else. Okay, let's do a quick thing. A class is defined using, first of all, the accessor, member accessibility, this keyword, public, private, protected, internal, there are many of them. Then the class. If you don't write these access modifiers, it's okay, but you should have class keyword and then the name of the class. You see that in Visual Studio, it's gonna be written in green, this kind of green, and if you just hover over that, you see class C#.program. And if you even go to here, you see that these kind of weird kind of structure is that something like inheritance, and this has been named as program, and that is what our class is. You can even access that from here. And we have this cube-like structure, this icon, which is our main function. We have here the project, here the C#.program, the class, and here the function. Okay, let's create a new function. But before that, you need a few things to note. A class can have functions, and for our program class, there is a function inbuilt for us, which is the main function, which will be called every time at start. Whenever we start our program, it will be called whenever we run our program first time. Okay, and if you're using structs, I will explain you about them in the next video, which will be uploaded today only, don't worry about that. So these are classes. Classes can have built-in functions which can be called by the compiler. For example, here we have the main function which will be called by compiler whenever we run the application or the program. And if you're using Unity, then you may know that there are start function, awake, on enable, on disable, update. There are many functions, and these are built-in functions which will be called as per different their modifications. Like awake will be called first when everything is just setting up. On enable will be called when everything has been enabled and has to be enabled. Start will be called whenever everything is set up and we need to perform the functionality. Awake is called once every frame. So it's like that. These functions are called by the compilers. And we can even have tons and tons of different variables inside classes. Now, class is a reference type, not a value type. And I'll explain you about the difference of value type and the reference type in a later video, but for now, we're just gonna keep it like this. Okay, so we're gonna create another program, and I'm gonna name this calculator class, and I'm gonna set this to be just class, no access modifier, calculator, and this is gonna have some of the functions like an int or like a public. This has to be static, public static void add, maybe add. We need int I, int num1 for short, and then int num2. You don't need a semicolon right here, and it should not be void, it should be int, and we can return num1 plus num2. Okay, and a label, I'm gonna comment that out, add function, add int function, and from here we can call in directly this function because we've set it to be static, like calculator dot add, and we need to pass in numbers. For example, we'll pass in 5 and 6, and all the answers will be 11, but I don't need debug, I need console.writeLine. Okay, I need to run. It will take a minute, and there we go. Add in another line, console.readLine. I don't want those weird messages coming on. Okay, we have successfully added these, but in our last video you saw that we created a new reference to this and then we added those. Now we are gonna create a new variable for this and then call the function from here, because we know variables can be created for classes. And up at the top we go, calculator, and I'm gonna name this private calculator. This is the not the Pascal case but the camel case that we use. for defining any kind of variables, but we can just put calculator.add, and this will not be available for us because it's set to static. We need to take this off, and we also need to write calculator equals to new calculator, but we won't be able to access any of the variables right here because we know that this is a static function. We need to remove these all. Calculator, we're defining a local variable equals to new calculator. If you don't know what this is, it is a constructor for creating classes. And if you don't know what it is, it's not a horrible thing. I'll explain you in a later video. Now let's just focus on this. And we know it will not have any effect on the answer. It will be 12. Yes, it has no effect on the answer. So basically we're just creating an instance, not instance but a variable of this class and accessing its function. If we were to set this private, we won't be able to access this in here, and it can have a lot of variables. Like this is a function because it takes two of these integers, but we can have certain variables, constant variables, like let me create one that is gonna be of type a float, public const float. I'm gonna name this pi equals to 3.14. This is a standard pi value. I'm gonna keep it like here, not modifying it, and we can access this right here, calculator dot pi. Why can't we access it? Maybe like this. Yes, for this we need to, for constant floats, you can access them directly. We don't need any kind of the variables, the local variables. You can access them directly. And one thing that you need to know, console is also a class inside the namespace system. Okay, and read line and write line are functions. As you can see, it's void. This is a string, right? String. If you press this, it's all to string. You don't need to understand these, and basically you can just see this is also a class, and classes are used everywhere, not just in applications, programs. They define functionality. For example, if we were to create a player controller for Unity maybe, or Unreal, for whatever engine you use, the logic may be simple. I don't know about Unreal, I know about Unity, but it's like you create one class, then define all the variables and add functionality to the player, like getting the input, then setting the position of the player. And if you're using dots in Unity or ECS, you may know that now the data from system has been separated completely. We're not gonna talk about that deeply now, but it's like there's one struct which stores all the data, or maybe a class if you use hybrid ECS, and then a class, which is system, which stores all the data, which actually performs functionality based on the data that we get from our entities. If you don't know what these are, just leave it like this. If you want to make applications, then they are even useful. Like you have one class for maybe some sort of UI animations and such like that. Then you have one class for buttons like that, buttons which add functionality, like when you press it, then some sort of event will be called. If you have ever made any kind of application in Visual Studio, then you may know, or even if you have created any application in Unity, then you may know it better, because in Unity we use classes instead of some sort of events, such like that. But in Unity there's a built-in class button that you can use easily, but in Visual Studio there are events. I don't know deeply about Visual Studio events, but I used to do in Unity. These softwares are almost same. The logic is almost same, and it almost does not vary from software to software. For example, you want some sort of math library, and then there's a built-in function called math in here. I think it's math, yes. And we also have a mathf and math dot min max. We get all sorts of different variables which you can access and basically do the calculation. But math is also a class. If you want to make plugins or any other thing, you want some sort of calculator plugin, if you're making that for any sort of software, making a DLL file for that calculator, then you're creating classes, adding functionality to it, and then exporting that to DLL file. These examples. Classes are completely customizable. You can do basically anything with the help of these classes. These were just small demos, and classes does not have any limit. So this is it for today, guys, and in the next video we're gonna learn about structs in C#. If you haven't liked, share, subscribe my channel yet, do it now and provide more content like this. If you haven't pressed that subscribe button and also click the notification bell icon, do it now, because if you don't do that, you'll not get any notifications that we're on the videos that we upload. Make sure you do that, and I am AttiDude signing